Hello. And you know when a Z review starts in my kitchen, that means there's some interesting piece of it. Oh, this. So finally, I'm going to say this. miniDSP, thank you for finally getting in contact with me as like an actual company to send me products for review, because it was costing me a fortune. And I certainly wasn't going to buy this if it was just like throw the money away, because I didn't think I wanted to go that far with my home theater. But as you should know from the UDI-08 video, my new home theater now has no receiver, no processor. It's just a DAC that I bought from miniDSP that sends out 8 channels of uncompressed audio, and then I put it into its own DACs, and then they get all, and it's great. Except it's not great. It's missing some stuff. There's no room correction. There's no bass management. There's no individualized controlling of channels. It's just raw. Right now, my home theater in the basement is raw. Well, miniDSP said, hey, we could, actually, they watched that video, saw what I had done, and went, you know what you need? And I'm going to read it off the box, because by the time this video is done, which will end up in the basement, I should remember the name of it. But it's the DDRC-88D. miniDSP does not have the greatest naming conventions in the history of the internet, but the DDRC-88D, I feel like that's like definitely a rap coming out of that, is very confusing to me. I'm going to state this now at the beginning of the video, because I realized when I opened the box up, who the hell is buying this that isn't doing exactly what I'm doing? Because it's a bigger box than the last one, but it still has only 2 connections, just like the last one. It's got power, which is here. It's got USB, which is here. And it's got that giant umbilical cord that has the exact same purpose. 4 in and 4 out, coaxial digital. So 8 channels in, 8 channels out. And I'm like, well, yeah, but the USB on this won't generate a signal. The one, the UDI-08, was literally just a sound card I've added to my computer that has 8 in and 8 out. And this, you need to feed it through that 4 inputs, and then you get the 4 outputs. And this does everything that's missing from my setup. This will do Dirac Live room correction, which is a very expensive option. This has the bass management module added in, which I think is just a software thing, but that's an extra $100, making the grand total of this unit Zeos gemstone in the title, because it's exactly $1,000. So $1,000 unit that does Dirac Live for every channel and bass management, which means it'll gather up. It can actually send the 0.1. It could do multiple subs. It's wild. It can do different profiles. And then to top it all off, it's got a knob and a button in front, which I know this channel is full of knobs and buttons, but this is a special knob and button, because this is actually a volume control for the digital outputs that it's processing. And then you can switch between different presets. So I can set a preset that's just like stereo music. Just don't touch the sub, just send left and right to the front, done. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm watching a TV show, it's only in stereo. I kind of want this to be in surround sound, but it's not. And in a normal surround sound receiver or processor, you'll be able to put into like a Dolby mode or a DTS mode or a THX mode, and it would, take different sounds and move them around to try to fake it. Well, this doesn't have those modes, but it's a miniDSP that's going to give me access to everything. So mode 2 might go, okay, you want a center channel, fine. That means take the left and right, and then put them both on this, in this sort of pattern. And then we'll take the bass completely out of the center, so you only have vocals. And then we'll take this and we'll invert the phase and put it in the rear. When I get to it, after the Dirac Live correction, which has to be done with a microphone, I actually own the microphone already. The UMIC, Zeos will link it in the description in the future. Not this Zeos. This Zeos is cool and chill. He hasn't been through the hardships of setting this up. Future Zeos, who's watching the video after it's all done, is like, fuck. Because the Dirac Live correction takes like 9 microphone positions, and it takes somewhere like around 2 hours to do the entire setup. So it's gonna be fun. So yeah, like I was saying, there's no way to use this box without giving it 4 SPDIF inputs. And you could, I guess, plug in 4 separate stereo sources and output in a surround sound, but that doesn't make any sense. So my, yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. And it does accept an infrared remote, which means I'm going to also have a remote control to control the volume here and not on Windows. That's going to be wonderful. They've included 2 rack mount ears, Although the unit's not rack mount width, so I'm not sure how you're supposed to deal with that, but it would be nice if you wanted to mount it somewhere. My biggest problem that I'm going to have is I have to hook the UDI-08 with one of these wires up to this unit with one of these wires. So I actually went out and already bought the barrels so that 4 of these can literally be touched to another giant loop. And I'm going to end up putting this whole thing in a box. I did have the idea though. There was no reason I can't just, and this is a 25D. It's only got 16 connections, which, you know, only 16. But there's, you know, it's coaxial. So unless the grounds are shared, I don't know if the grounds are shared actually. That would make it a little bit easier because then it would be one shared ground and then multiple HOTS. And then I'd only have 9 connections, which then why would they use a 25D? I don't know. Point is, I could legally probably ask my friend to make me a D-sub 25 to D-sub 25 jumper. So like with the other box right on top of it, just feed straight in with a little wire. And then have to deal with the 4 outputs that will be converted to RCA to go to the DACs. It's still a possibility. I don't know how far I'm going because I'd have to buy, oh God. I have to buy one of these and then solder onto the points and then have a little jumper that's like 6 inches away. It's doable. And it seems like miniDSP should sell that. Because if you buy the UDI-08 and you buy this, you're gonna hook them together and it's either gonna add 6 feet of this nonsense or not, and then just give you like 4 little outputs. So yeah, that's that. I'm gonna go down the basement. Well, I'm not doing this today. This is being filmed days before. But the DDRC-88D, which stands for digital, is going to be integrated into my home theater. It's going to be even more the brains. This is almost everything that I'm missing from a surround processor. It will not do HDMI switching. That's still not a thing. It will not do HDMI at all. In fact, it has nothing to do with it. It's just you give it 4 signals and you're done. And since the only other unit can only do USB input, you're still restricted to this sort of thing to a home theater PC, basically. Some sort of home theater PC is the only way to do what I'm doing. But now we've upped the price from a mini computer and a $325 essentially 8-channel DAC to a mini computer, a $325 DAC, and a $1,000 mega process. I don't even know. I don't even know how to define this. A DRAC Live box. Because DRAC Live room correction is supposed to be the best in the world, and I've never used it. But I'm pretty sure I'm not changing the front end of my home theater anytime soon, so we're gonna set the hell out of it. Yeah, all right, time to leave my kitchen, which is nice and comfortable and warm, and go down the basement and breathe heavily. Welcome to my head cam floating around. So, I've injected this into the middle of the DDC-88D review because I am now currently live streaming with the camera on my other head. And I am currently doing a wide selection correction. So I've got all the speakers set up in their correct volumes. This is my miniDSP UMIK1 sitting in a very odd position because in order to do DRAC Live properly, and once you see all these little globes, yeah, we just did the center, front left, front right. Now we got to do basically front right knee, and here, let's go do that. So I don't know how I'm gonna. The microphone also has to be pointed up vertically, so I'm gonna crank it down. Hopefully I have enough cord. Hold. This is not my usual. And I'm doing it with the couch in line because I know the sound is gonna get affected if I moved all of the soft bits away. So that's basically where that needs to be. Right? The center was here, maybe a little bit more to the right would be the front right. So there you go. So that's where that next one has to be. And now we're just gonna hit go, and I'll let you watch it or listen to it do a full test sweep. I'll leave this on the couch. Pretend there's a big man sitting there watching movies. And calibrate. I mean, I'm not showing you any of the exciting animations this makes, but there is the calibration in that position. Now we're going to do the next position, and we got to do that 2, 4, 6, 8 more times. Well, I'm sorry, 9 more times. And then it will have built a profile that actually you could hover over with the mouse all the different DRAC channels. And DRAC 1 and 2, those are the heresies. This is the subwoofer over there. You can see it's got a very big spike, 12 hertz, exactly where it should be. And then we have the rear channels, which I have here, and they're all relatively flat. These are the clips on the side. One's got a slightly bigger hump in the mid-range, and these are the JBL LSR 305s back here, one of which has a rattle when we're doing this, so I'm going to try to figure that out. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. That's what me and my live streams are doing. So I'm going to move it to the front bottom left now and do that again, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. Okay, after 13 different points of measurement, which you have the option of 9 for a single point, 13 for a slight spread, and if you have a lot of width, you can do up to 17 points of measurement. This is just the rear 4 channels. So these 4 speakers, there's what they actually measured with the dips and ups and downs. And you can see that line, that is what it's going to attempt to calculate out. If we look at my subwoofer, and we get to set these like curtains of where it tries to correct. I don't need to correct over 100 for the subwoofer, but I try to correct it all the way down, even though it doesn't trust its measurements down here. You can see it didn't measure at 12 hertz, but and I made it a little bit of a bump. And then finally, the group 1, which is the front channels. This is the measurement graph for the heresies with the subs I've added. We're pretty flat down to 29, 30. I'd say 30. It seems about right. And it just wiggles up and down past, and I'm going to correct it all the way to 12,000 hertz. So from 25 hertz to 12,000. And we're going to proceed to filter export. And I love this DRAC Live program. It does give you these little, like, it tells you exactly what's happening and what you should be doing. So I'll come when the review's on, I'll tell you how it sounds. All right, camera on head. It's the next day, and I'm just here to explain a little bit about the bass management upgrade, which I believe everyone's going to pay for. It's $100 extra. He's paying $900 for this magical box of DRAC. Spend the extra $100, get the bass management, because I just got the bass management unlock. It's basically a software unlock, and it's like kind of like, why did it charge you for that? But oof, this is what I'm doing. All right, so when you don't have the bass management plugin for $100, you just get the DRAC. You get all the corrections, it listens to all your speakers and does its thing. However, if you're gone this far, why not go a little further? And what the bass management does is it allows you to unlock the low frequency management console, along with routing, mixer, and the output changes, this is the standard miniDSP sort of stuff with parametric equalization, which 10 different parametric equalization things, which you're not really going to be doing a lot of the parametric equalization stuff because you have DRAC. But if you were building your own active speaker and you want to do multiple layers and then have it correct it, you can do that. What I am interested in is the low frequency LFE management console here, which allows you for every single channel, just like in a normal receiver, set a low pass and high pass so that you can send, like this JBL 305 doesn't want to do 8 hertz. So what you do is you can go in here, and this is not side, it's a rear left. That would be this one. The high pass filter is currently set to send 80 hertz and above to this speaker. And we've got it set on the opposite. The low pass, it's rear left, right? It's a little bit, many arrows. Low pass here, which is only down to 80 hertz, goes over that sub. What we're doing is we're allowing that subwoofer to now be used to support smaller speakers. And I initially tried to do this without including the fronts, the clipshes, because they have their own dedicated 10-inch, but, and I explained this on my live stream yesterday, the problem with having a subwoofer like that 10-inch down there, which has been doing great for years, is once you DSP correct and the microphone says, hey, subwoofer, you're not doing that great a job at X hertz, 23 hertz. What the DRAC correction is going to do is going to say, okay, bump and it's going to try to make that subwoofer extra flat. And that could be an issue, because that subwoofer, which was doing all its great job, it's got a little bit of failings. It's kind of like if you're like not the greatest athlete, and all of a sudden the coach steps up and says, no, 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 no. You're gonna be the best. And here's why. We're gonna include all these bionic attachments, and now you're gonna actually be able to pull 23 hertz out. And the problem with that is your hardware, because it's not a weak point in my system, but those subs were never meant to do flat down to 23 hertz. So I've had to actually go into the DRAC correction and lower them down a little bit. But what I also was able to do is, using the bass management, go here and set a high pass, low pass filter at exactly 22 hertz. So that those subwoofers in the front that are there to support the front channels during music and movies are not asked to do 18 hertz. Because it's asking them and they're like, no. So now my front channels have a low pass filter, so for anything below 40 hertz to the front end of my home theater, which is pretty damn low, is now going to go to the 0.1. And I might tweak this up and down depending on if I feel like it's blending properly. Because now that DRAC is done and the corrections are in, and I'm like, oh God, and we'll talk about that when the actual review is finished, because I want to give it a couple more days to sink in and tweak. But now I have the ability to say, okay, none of you should worry about anything below 80 hertz, such as the THX cutoff. So you could all play without distortion, even though they're corrected down to as low as DRAC will make them go. And those front boys over there, you're great. And we're basically just mixing in. You can see I have a center channel turned off, and I've got everything else on, including the LFE. And what you get to do with the routing in that is, the LFE track is here, the DRAC4 output is there, so that DAC that outputs to the subwoofer could just get the 0.1 track done. Or you shut that off, turn the LFE on in the LFE management, and then when you play Dread and the scene comes on with, you know, where's the scene with the guns? So many scenes with guns. People are on fire. The opening is probably the loudest bit of Dread. But now everything is in here, and I get to completely configure by right-clicking any decibel level. So if I think the fronts are, you know, they don't need that much support, I could lower that down 72 decibels or up 12. That's another, I guess, benefit is you don't just get to tweak down from 0, you get to tweak up also on everything. So if I think that the subwoofer, I don't even have to get out of my seat to adjust my subwoofer. Set the subwoofer to noon, adjust it all here. I would probably leave it alone. Now that this is my first time running DRAC as like a suite, but I've got every other channel muted, which is nice. I could just unmute surround left or side left, which would be that one. There's no sound, right? Those are rears. Okay, yeah. So I could unmute everything, and I could unmute fronts.
Executioners.
Judges.
Judges.
Right. We'll get back to this. We'll be back. Hold on. The one and only time that I'm happy Windows exists, and I'm sure people will argue that Linux has a better one or fucking Mac has a better one, but a lot of the testing I've been doing has been with the standard Windows, like, hey, test button, where it makes a ding-ding-dong, and we can see it here, and I'll explain what I had to do this for. So hit test, center, sub, side, side. I believe that worked right. Basically, I had to rename a couple of these because they didn't correspond, or it was like SR and RR. In my mind, that's side right and rear right, but actually those were the rear and this was the surround, so that's just like fucking confusing. So now BL and BR are back left and back right, and SL and SR are that. And I've had to change the text in a couple places. You have to rename it here. You literally can just type in anything you want. I think you get like 7 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 characters. So you could type in whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it as SL in, because that's my surround. That's my side left in. It's that one. So I know. So you may just have to run this. Wait. Back left, back right, side left, side right. And you notice that that one's going up because that is the low frequency LFE management, pushing signals from these things into the subwoofer. Even though that ding is not exactly like a bass track, it is sending things to that. So that's a good way to check and tell us to have this. There are downloadable for free surround sound test videos, like little 3-minute videos that are just like, this is produced to make surround left, surround right, in phase, out of phase, all those. I have them somewhere. I don't know where they are. But that's the only reason I turned this camera back on, was to explain that sometimes you got to match what your brain thinks with the labeling up here. Like, I don't even have to have it say out. We know these are out. So I could write out front, left, front, right, center, which doesn't exist, but is still getting signal. If I plug into this Geshelli Labs DAC, which is currently only has the XLR and an RCA for the meter for the subwoofer. This XLR and RCA are dedicated center out, and they're functioning, but they're not being used, probably because, and I can probably fix this now, because my Media Player Classic, when I was talking about Media Player Classic having the reasons it does it, I've assigned the center to be left and right. So if I undo that, we could do that right now. All right, we'll do it right now. Make sure this is a surround sound track, first of all. 5.1. I'd rather mix with a 7.1, just because is Fifth Element 7.1? Great Gatsby. I love the movie Great Gatsby. It's not the great, like, people are like, but it's also 5.1. See, 5.1, I don't believe we'll use if we go to a surround soundy scene in this.
Has been educated there for many years. You see some kind of tradition.
Actually, we are getting it all.
Spoke.
How are we getting it? So here's the thing. When you go into this and go to options, and I'm sorry this is becoming like an epic. I thought it was going to be just sit at my kitchen, talk about it for 2 seconds in the middle, and then finish it on the desk wherever I'm talking about it. But this could be a 3-hour video. I think people who are actually interested in having a giant box of... Have you seen the giant box of fuck? Did I even... Here's the microphone on the thing, which... Wow. This is a giant box of angry fuck. Because here is the DDRC-88D sitting here in the front, where I have access control to the volume, and you can switch it to turn things on and off. Here's the UDI-08. Those giant coils of cable are contained in this box, and I've got just a standard power strip in there to power both of these, and the mini computer is in there as well, because why not? So I actually shoved my little... Zeos will link the mini computer in the future, which runs all my videos, and it'll run 4K. I only need 1080p for this setup. So here is what I've got going on. Front left, front right, and you can see 2 check boxes are center. So if I were to uncheck those, I've also got multiple check boxes indicating to push back and side channel, because there's side left and right, which has 2 indicated boxes. So I may be expanding this to 8 channels. I can't unpause it without hitting OK, so let's see.
No wonder people thought he was lying. After my family died.
So I took off those 2 check boxes, and it still has a center channel. So let's shut off center channel, and it should have no speaking.
I ran into a great deal of...
Nope, don't know how it's working right now. So we can go to filters, lav, audio decoder. This is a lot of, like, you have to be ready for this. So I don't have enable mixing on. That is currently off. There is a status, which shows me the 5.1 channels. No backs, 6 channels total. I don't know how pin info works. So the question is, how are we getting vocals out of the center? See, here's the thing. Oh, you know what it is? I told Dirac in this configurator here, this Dirac channel configuration, it asked me all about this stuff. And one of the Diracs, Dirac 3, is unused, which is the center channel. So Dirac knows that I don't have a center channel, so those switches didn't have to be on. So now I may have been doubling up, because, look, this is my hobby. I would rather never do headphones or anything else again. Just want to fuck with surround sound. I love movies. I love sitting there. I love being immersed. So when I get a headphone that does like this, it's like, wow, still not as good as surround sound. And the fact that I've able to craft this to this level of absurdity without spending $1 trillion. That's the main point here, boys and girls. Yes, that box costs $1,000 and the UDI-08 costs $300, but and every DAC costs $200 a piece. So you need at least 4 DACs, you need $800 and $1,300. So it's like $2,000 so far just to have a processor that I've basically hand built with my own DACs. But my God, and then you need the microphone, so it's around $2,000 total. But my God, you got either self-powered speakers, or in case you haven't seen how these clipshes are running, because these are just passive clipshes. There is here is a topping PA3 just sitting here, just running the side channels. It's like a $100 amp. So I mean, for rear channels, and I can't overstate this, I don't think anyone needs to. These are just speakers I had lying around. Now, I can't do the thing I loved to do in my old apartment, which was to have a wall and put the speaker down, firing up, so that it would hit the wall, and wash the ceiling. Number one, there's no wall, which makes it an issue. I mean, there's a wall way over there and a wall kind of over there. But another issue is the ceiling is a big, soft fiberglass thing, which is actually causing a lot of the sound dampening in the room, which is good, but not good for doing that reflective thing I like to do. So I do plan on building walls with a Z that are going to be wheelable panel walls, basically this high, like half an inch under where this will go. So I could roll them around the basement and just build walls with either one side being gypboard or the other side being fabric covered insulation. So I could be like reflective, absorbative. And then I could do my side bounce things, but that'll also require me to do DRAC again for specifically those channels. Point is, this is not for the faint of heart, because I don't want to get all your questions and comment. I love you patrons. I love people in the $10 chat. And when I have to explain something to them, it's fine. As long as they get it, boom. Don't enter this world unless you are pretty fucking understandable about how, and whatever media player you want to use, on whatever operating system you want to use, you plug in the UDI-08, you get 8 channels, here you go. Do you know how to fuck with your program well enough to make it work? Because once this works, it's going to work forever, I hope, until something updates and breaks it. But it should work forever. I have small bass managed rears. I have large full range in the front, even though I'm doing bass management through the miniDSP plugin, which is slightly different. See, DRAC and miniDSP are not the same company. DRAC is licensed by miniDSP. That's why the licensing costs so much. If you get the miniDSP HD, it's $200. You get the miniDSP HD with DRAC built in, it's like $400. That $200 just goes towards DRAC licensing to make it work. DRAC isn't stupid, and DRAC makes a good product. So my point is, I'm just trying to scare you a little. Because yeah, I'm able to get it to work, but what the fuck I do? I don't have to go to a 9. If I had to go to a 9-to-5 job and then come home and then cook dinner and then like, oh my God, my taxes, and then, oh, I should work on this 7.1 thing that I got. I'd be a weekend warrior just here in the basement. It was 60 degrees out and sunny like it is currently, and just fucking in the basement. So, I mean, the fact that I do this all day and I could do this for hours and hours and fix it and tweak it just for myself means I can. Don't ask me to come to your house and do it either, because I will not. But yeah, no, we're moving on. We're moving on. This is still not the review. I don't believe it in my heart. I'm still like just excited. I want to share these things while I'm excited and while I'm exploring, because I'll forget. There's no fucking notepad detailed enough that I can write, oh, and then this happened, because it'll just be like a birthmark on the thing. Oh yeah. So let me go back to listening to this, because it's a lot about hearing what it's happening and seeing if I can improve it. Because now that I got the player, the Media Player Classic set up, and this is a new bridge, which I will link. So back left, back right. I should just turn off these. Actually, if I hold shift, I can have things immediately change. I want to do this while it's playing, but I can't because I'm recording a video, and if I, can't play videos on YouTube. Once I shut this off, I will play the video, and then I can come back to here and hold down shift and turn on and off these channels, see what goes down. Because once I find the configuration for the player, I shouldn't have to touch it ever again. And then we'll move on. And then the fun shit comes, because if I go to config 2, which I can switch in the front of the unit or with a remote control, which, by the way, this remote control is a Vizio remote, and it's labeled funny because this was Micah's Edifier's Vanitu's, Klipsch, Ohms, and SVS. These are the remotes I bought to control the mini DSPs at RMAF. I bought 3 of these from Amazon, and I have it it's any old remote. You could just assign with the infrared, hey, do this, 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 and I can lower the volume or hit this middle button, turn Dirac Live on and off, and I can configure different configurations. It takes a second to switch because the configs are a big pain in the ass. Boom. So any remote, I got it. I fucking got it. Any remote will do. That was exciting. Whew. Didn't know my arms could move that fast. Anyway, I'll see if these are still available. I think I got them on eBay. I don't think these were an Amazon purchase. I just needed a remote with specifically few buttons so that I can make all this changes, passive and active, on and off, and volume and pause for RMAF. But works perfectly for this. Anyway, moving on. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so what I've done is I've completely disabled in Media Player Classic its ability to mix channels. Completely removed that, removed any normalization. I'm just giving it raw data, and everything got real quiet, which is fine because I could raise things. I have the mini DSP in the front that's actually controlling the fronts. I have it -8 on the input side because it was always that's my concern. One of my big things when you're dealing with a system that's like, let's just call it experimental, and your volume control was your mouse wheel for a little while. You don't want the ability to go, huh, and then blow things up. And using the mini DSP where you have to log in and put an IP address to connect to the Wi-Fi thing to then lower the volumes pretty permanently. Like, I'm not worried about those jumping up to 0 randomly. So the -8 was sort of like my safety net before I figure shit out. So what I can do is I can log into the other mini DSP. There's a mini DSP back there. There's a mini DSP over there. It's separate. I can go in there and just set it to 0. Gives me 8 more decibels of headroom. Then I can go around and figure out if I want to raise the physical amplifiers, because this has a knob that goes way more, and these clips actually are almost at the maximum on that PA3, so I may have to get another amplifier involved to push side channels or switch them out to something more efficient or whatever to try to bring, because once I bring those up 8 decibels, once I give 8 more decibels of headroom to those, all of these are going to have to go up, and I'll be able to do that. And then I would probably load the Dirac software again, set up the microphone in the middle, and just do my volume leveling, which, oh, I just want to point out, I'm rather proud of this moment. If we go to the Dirac page here, it shows the different Dirac channels, and it shows the delay that was added to compensate for distance. Well, you don't ever get to see this. When you do like the sound check, it usually just checks it. But the difference between the front right and the front left is 0.08 milliseconds, which frankly, that ain't bad considering I place those by eye. So I'm just pretty proud of that less than 1/10 of a millisecond delay change needed. The subwoofer gets delayed 0.21, which you would normally try to figure out that 0.21 using the phase switch. I just put the phase all the way to 0 and let Dirac deal with it. The ones in the back have a 6 millisecond and 4 millisecond delay. This one's off by 0.2 of a millisecond. This one's off by 0.4 of a millisecond. So those are slightly different distances compared to these, which are only real close, and I could sort of figure it out. So just want to point that out. Anyway, so I've disabled all that, and in here, under routing, you can see front left in Dirac 1, front right in Dirac 2, and then Dirac 3, which is center and is center. I now have these two on the left side enabled and at -6 decibels. So that is, if I turn those off and I play Great Gatsby, we go to a talkie scene where he's blatantly speaking, you don't hear anything because the center channel will be getting all this information. But since there is no center channel, because the DAC's not hooked up, there's no one speaking. So what I have to do is I have to tell the mini DSP here, which is getting all the channels, that I want to turn on center in the left and then center in the right. And so since I have both of them on, I'm getting a mono center signal pushed to both speakers, and we're getting a perfect center image. Now, the reason it's at -6 is because I think, because I'm doubling the channel into both, I'm taking a single channel, putting it somewhere, and then putting a copy of it somewhere else. So it's brighter than the rest, which is another reason I'm going to have to raise the fronts, because I'm dropping it 6 decibels on each side, which is right now just a guess. It may be 4.5, it may be 3. The only way to tell is going to be with the sound meter. Once I have this locked in, this config, if I run the DRAC again, I could tell it's got 7 speakers. Actually, I wonder what would happen if I told it has a center channel when it really doesn't, and it doesn't know. I wonder if DRAC knows what's happening in the rest of this app. Tell it has a center channel. It would output to both speakers and think that's a center channel and then adjust for it. It shouldn't need to. I kind of don't want it to. But these are the sort of, like, my brain is like clicking, like click. It's like very slow. It's like an old clock. It just has to sort of swing back and forth and goes click, click, click. Because DRAC is just going to put a signal out to the center channel. But all of this is controlling what's where. So if it says tone out of the center channel and both my front speakers start producing the stat tone, it's going to get all weirded out with phase. I wouldn't want it to do that. But just adding them in there, and then I'll probably have to do a test tone manually, just checking, and then get that center. Or here's another thing. Just because DRAC says this is perfect doesn't mean you have to leave it that way. It's correcting lulls and humps and all these weird shapes that the room is fucking with. But your personal preference still comes into the finalized setting of this device. I honestly, I never have a problem hearing dialogue. I mean, I fucking, do you understand what my front channel, like, you have 2 heresies pointing right at you. If you have a problem hearing dialogue from those, go to the ear doctor. So my biggest problem is dialogue usually overpowers what's happening in the effects channel. And it's not just dialogue, everything that happens on screen, every gunshot, every fucking tank roll. I kind of want to lower that a bit. I'm okay. Like, I talk about how if you have a center channel, you want it to be the most impressive, big, giant speaker. But I don't have a center channel, and I kind of want to calm it down to get the feel of the left and right doing explosions and whirring, and then the back channels can sort of take over. I'll hear the dialogue just fucking fine. The question is, that's not even the question. The question is how much I want to mix it in there, because I have -6. I can make it -15, and Gatsby could be whispering, which it's kind of annoying because here's how this works. Mouse, you click it to turn it on and off. You want to change the decibels, which is currently -6. You right click it. You get this dialogue, and you can drag it up and down or type in for more precision things. So we want -16 decibels. You can't hit enter. You have to hit close. And then if you don't right click, if you do that, then you right click here. I actually did move over. That's impressive. It wasn't doing that before. It's just a little bit of an awkward, oh, I didn't hit enter. I did 16. I didn't hit enter, then hit close. So now, we've got music and ambiance. Very whispery Leonardo DiCaprio, just sort of happening. So I'll be able to determine how to adjust that. Unfortunately, I can't like combine those together. A lot of the miniDSP options, for example, when I'm in this and I'm doing parametric EQs, which I'm not doing parametric EQs here, I'd have to log into the other miniDSP to show you that. But you can link like front left channel and front right channel. You're not going to really do different crossover points. So you can go into the menu and say, link this channel to this channel. So you only have to do one change. And it's just slightly unfortunate that I have to do 2 changes here. So obviously 16 is too little. Let's make it, oh, did I have it at 6? Let's make it 4.5. We'll try 4.5, 4.5, enter, close. And I don't think escape does it either. -4.5. You got to remember, I will almost always suggest you go negative. Going positive can work in the digital realm, so long as it's never at 0 and you're pushing the DACs to output more than they want. But you got to remember, if you're doing anything in this and you're typing it out, don't just type 4.5, because if I typed just 4.5 and hit enter, it indeed goes positive 4.5 decibels.
Oh, good night.
He's screaming out of the right channel now because he's 9 decibels louder and out of that channel. So just remember to put your negatives in. A lot of the mini DSPs don't allow you to go above 0. This one does. So just be mindful. You have a lot of power. By the way, if I turned on all of these, every sound from every channel would play out of every other channel. Just think about that for a second. Front left information, bird chirping. Click, 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 click. All birds chirping in the same thing. You can make the most and the thing is, when you stack a channel like I'm doing with the center, it doesn't auto level. So whatever was 0 decibels there is getting 0 decibels with another one. So you could blow up some shit if you fuck with this. I'm tempted, kind of. Like I could put and here's another thing, I could put the low frequency information. If I don't want to run my sub or my sub that's blown up for some reason, I could push the 0.1 information directly to the front channels and they would try to do it. Or I could push it to this little speaker and it would try to do it. It's fantastical madness. There's also, I was linked to a multiple subwoofer configuration thing that miniDSP offers using the bass management plugin where you can have multiple subs. And this is always possible with miniDSP HDs and nano digis if you want to use your own DAC. You could have 8 subwoofers all on custom delays, dotted around and all doing their own thing, but coherently. So there's an entire article which the CEO of miniDSP linked me, and I'm like, oh God, I felt ill. I felt pretty ill. Like music. So without any fuckery through Media Player Classic. Oh, we're in config 2. The whole reason I started this goddamn video was to show you this. We were in config 2. Config 1, I have all set up, 7.1, good to go. Config 2, we need to change something because this is a 5.1 movie, which means when I play sound, oh, for fuck's sake, I don't want to click config 4. Now, it'll save automatically. I do highly recommend you go file, save config every once in a while and save a physical file to load back in. But when you go to outputs and I play this video, you got front left, front right, center, which I still have outputting even though there's no speaker, subwoofer. These are nothing. And then you have surround, side left and side right. So those two are playing bird sounds and music. Whatever's happening is happening out of the sides. These two speakers don't have any information because it's a 5.1 movie. Let's fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to routing. So we have sides but not back. So I've relabeled all these SL and BL. So what we're going to do is for this configuration, config 2, we're going to expand 5.1 to 7.1. Now you can do this on most receivers. We're just doing like, what was the mode that my Tascam had? It was like expand mode, theater expand. So it would take whatever your signal was and push it to all channels. This is not quite as easy. We're going to have to actually design this ourselves. So we have side, but not back. So where's our side signal? Side signal is 7 and 8. So we're just going to tell this one, do that too. Or, no, wait. No. That's the Dirac. That's the signal. This is where we need back. We want the backs to play. Backs should work if I do that. They should stack. Oh, I might have to do it in the mixer. Let's see. We still have nothing. Okay, we're learning together, everyone. Let's shut it off here. Let's go to mixer. And 7 and 8 will do 5 and 6. Should be, because I want to force the channel, the sound that's coming out of those speakers into these, and then I'll lower it down. I can actually lower it down and delay it, so that when you have a surround sound moment, normally right now if I watch Great Gatsby without doing this, it's going to be side channels, great, birds, or thing fly by. But it's never going to use the speaker. So what I'm going to try to attempt to do, if I can figure out how to fuck to tell it to do that, is play the same exact sound that speaker's getting in this speaker, delayed 4 or 5 milliseconds, and a little slightly quieter. So it'll go, foo, foo. I know it's doable because I've done it. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do it. Because if we don't do it, let's see if we can shut off them entirely. Okay, we were able to shut off everything. And I wish I can't test because I'm recording. If I could just let this play on a, and you guys couldn't hear it and I wouldn't get a copyright strike from YouTube listening. Is that Great Gatsby? Demonetized. Probably going to get demonetized anyway because welcome to my fucking life. But demonetized isn't the work. Has plenty of patrons that keep me. Where's that first party?
German spy.
Where's the first party?
Playboy publishers and then
Blonde, blah. I could shut off the dialogue. So you can barely hear him speaking because it's just echoing through because that's the way the actual mix in the studio did it. So if I completely mute the front channels, so now I have centers playing to nothingness, subwoofer is still playing, doing all its work. Now we can mess with it while this is playing because no one can say anything. So let's see, we want side left, side right, side left, side right. That's weird. I don't have access to these speakers. Why? What has been done? Because I literally saved config 1. Let's switch to config 1 and see if I can force it in config 1. I was going to force it in config 2 and make config 2 the I wonder. No, there's no way it's reporting that it shouldn't have those speakers. I have full access to it.
Mr. Gatsby, I live just next door.
So we're still on -6 here because config 2 has got a different volume leveling. If I get something right on one config, the odds are I'm going to save it, load it to all the configs, and then build back off of that. Mama's here. All right. Sorry to make this video like 2 hours long, but this is exciting shit. And as soon as I figure out how to make things happen, you should be excited about it too, because I'm pretty sure when this is tuned properly, I will have the best surround sound in 100 miles. Seriously. And I'm not that far from fucking New York. I challenge anyone from New York and Philly to come say their surround sound's better than mine. If it don't have this going, it ain't. I don't care how much you spend on your McAfee antivirus amps. No. McLaren's. Oh, Macintosh, that's the one. Macintosh surround sounds can suck my dick. We're about to make this even better. You won't find him. Okay, so I got it. I don't know, literally, I don't know what the fuck I did. I sat here for 20 minutes just flipping things on and off, putting on custom channel mapping, made everything work. And I'm like, but that doesn't seem right. So I got it to go off, and now side left and right are now being pushed. Okay, I know what I did. This is weird. So the mixer is straight. The routing is now telling side left and side right to go to DRAC 5 and 6, which is the back channel. So we're actually at the beginning of it. We're pushing it through to these speakers from those speakers before DRAC, which makes sense. Sort of. If I turn off center, we don't get vocals. But we go to the output stage and we can see we have all 4 lit up. I've got a 4 decibel cut on these, which I'm just setting it standing behind it. I have no idea if it's going to sound right. And a 5 millisecond delay, which is probably way too much to get like an actual like moving effect. It's probably going to need like 2.5. I don't know why. I like doing things with decimal places just because I can. And if you just typed it in, you got to hit enter or it won't activate that, or you got to click off the dialogue for it to activate. I could also invert the phase. I could also like put a treble spike in. I could do, because this is just config 2, config 1 will be I'm watching a 7.1 movie and everything is perfect. Config 2 is I'm watching a 5.1 movie and nothing is perfect. Now if we go to config 3 and I put on something in stereo, I can make it so that stereo, and this will affect the entire LFE management. I can make it so if I'm watching a stereo thing, which usually if I'm watching anime or hentai or most pornography is all stereo, and I want to include the 0.1, again, this is not a surround receiver. There is no just stereo mode. You have basically direct, and anything else you have to build from scratch. So config 3, I would have to go into routing, and we could just turn off everything because we're assuming we have just front, left, and right, which I could open up any random TV show, which is just a stereo encode, and go off that, and then say, okay, stereo's great. I kind of want a little bit more like just ambiance, and do exactly what I did, invert the phase, push the front channels to the side, and make them real quiet. Because that's the thing, we're going to be taking, we'll be taking dialogue with it. So you could actually mess up the fucking frequency response curves and just squelch everything that's got like a dialogue tone, just so you get like foomp, delay there, foomp, delay there, quieter, and move it to the back. And then put the 0.1 involved. And then config number 4 would probably be my like direct, just stereo, just music listening. Although right now, what can I do with, I can actually make it so that in my old living room, I used to have configuration 4 was pure, just direct, front, left, right, because I would do testing of speakers there. But I've got a whole other area for that now. So config 4 doesn't need to be some sort of gimped, direct mode. I could just do something. I could do maybe one of the suggestions was like late night movie mode. If you have other people in your house, you want to watch a movie, you can't quite play it as loud. I would have it so that the dialogue was pushed up. I could take the subwoofer and like cram it down. Just shut off the subwoofer, honestly. Take the 0.1, remove it entirely. Bring it down, maybe put a couple bumps in like the low end just for the front end, so I just feel a little bit of it, and then have these like sort of just creep up a little bit louder, so that even though I'm listening real quiet, I still get the surround sound effect. I get not as much cram and bass, and I put the dialogue up. You can build your own surround sound mode. That'll be number 4, will be my Build-A-Bear surround sound mode. So config 3, I will deal with stereo, and then LFE, which would be low frequency management, would be on, which turn that light on and off. I love the one of the best parts about using Geshelli Labs Enog Pros is that they have an indicator light that shows when they're active. So as you turn on more and more of the channels, it's going, oh, I see something, red light, green light, which is, I don't think any other DACs really like have a button, like a light that's like, hey, I'm getting signal. There's a couple things that have like, I'm signal light, but that's blatant. I love it. And each one of those being like $130, $40 in a stereo pair is better than pretty much anything you'd get in any of the high-end expensive surround sound processors. They probably match some of the highest end $3,000, $4,000 ones, but it was like $100, $450. So suck it. So yeah, we're moving on now. Because do I want to play stereo stuff? I guess I can go to my YouTube downloads. Where's my YouTube downloads? Yes, I have a folder where I download YouTube videos because I got to watch the half and the worst release the Snyder Cut, which again, Mike, Jay, Rich will all be speaking. It's a good show.
Well, here we are again.
By the way, I also have my Media Player Classic set up. If you notice the black bars here, I'm running a custom resolution for this whole thing of 1920 by 816, which I can force onto this monitor and will crop automatically the black bars on top and bottom of everything. And Media Player Classic has, if you go, the long way to get to it is right click, video frame, and then there's 2 options. Touch window from inside, which is there's your normal frame, and then the other one, right click, video frame, touch window from outside, which crops it to whatever the hell your window frame is. So when I'm watching this on the projector, I can watch it in ultra wide. I just have to usually just shift up a little bit. I've watched entire TV shows and movies just cropped. Because, I mean, if I have an ultra-wide display and the movie's 16:9 and it's filmed in a certain way, you can kind of just move it down and expand it. It's just as good. I know, suck it. I was watching all The Expanse in 2:3:5:1. And you know what? As long as you just shift it just a little bit down to get a little bit more top bias, that's the kind of crazy I am. Welcome to Zeos. I'm that kind of crazy. But now that's a great example of, well, there's not much stereo information. It's just them speaking on screen. But I could certainly adjust so that if they're speaking on screen, it doesn't annoy me when the rear channels are reproducing it and giving me like that fill-in sound. I mean, hell, I could take these rear channels, just have anything under 120 hertz, just sort of resonate back here. Just give me that fullness. We'll see. All right, moving on to things and stuff and stuff. So, redo of Healer. Excellent example of an anime. Definitely an anime. And I've got the 4 back channels, which now that I know how to do the routing, and the routing looks like this, where it's front left and front right, then DRAC 3, which is center, which doesn't need to be on, then the subwoofer, which is DRAC 4, getting both channels, because I'm forcing the subwoofer to receive everything in the front, left, and right we're getting, and then DRAC 5, 6, 7, 8, offsetting left and right. So I'm feeding that in. The mixer stays the same. Outputs now. Inverted, all 4 in the back, with a slightly longer 2 millisecond delay on those. Those are at 0, because the inversion's automatically a time change. And I've got -6 on these, -5 on those. And then I was trying to do a crossover cutoff but the crossover wasn't what I needed. I wanted to remove vocals, so I set some very violent parametric equalizations. Here is what the back speakers are now doing. Basically nothing from 200, a little under 200 to a little bit over 1,000. So if I were to mute everything else, which keep in mind, these speakers are getting the same signal the fronts are. So if you just let it play, then you're in surround sound stereo mode, which is an option, but I don't think anyone wants to hear that. So if I let just the back speakers play, very sharp, very sibilant, but I'm also blasting it. When you put on the fronts, you're just going to get this sense of like an echo in the back. Trust me, it's real hard to... If you ever mute your front channels and try to play a surround sound thing, you're going to hear like weird sounds back there. So this is obviously a first draft, but I've got that equalization on the back, or parametric equalization, and then the sides is a little bit more I just want low end out of the clips, because those are so directional. I don't want to get any vocality through them at all for this effect, essentially. So please be... So you could just hear just a very low rumble, just to give you like the sense of width. And then, the last thing I did is I noticed, because there's no 0.1 track, and I've always figured this out. When you put on a surround sound receiver, even my Tascam, which is a dedicated receiver, when you have your subwoofer there, and it's tuned perfectly for movies, you put on Edge of Tomorrow, it shakes like crazy. You put on just stereo, there tends to be a lot less going on, and I usually have to go on, put it in stereo mode, set it to stereo, turn the subwoofer up, listen to music or whatever, and then turn it back down for movies. Well, miniDSP has got us covered on that. I have a 7.5 decibel bump for the subwoofer, and I'm feeding it, keep in mind, I'm feeding it full frequency because it doesn't have a 0.1 track. So I've actually had to do a crossover here. I'm crossing over to 80. I could probably tone that down a bit since my front channels are pretty violent on their own. So there's 60. That's it. Type 60, hit enter. Done. So now that subwoofer is getting the front channel information, but only repeating everything from 40 hertz and below. And I've reloaded everything else, so it should... Yeah, no, it should be doing... if I loaded it, it should be doing high pass, low pass already from the front channels. But I want to give them more. I want more. When I'm watching stereo content, and this is content, I want that subwoofer to shake. If I go to the end credits scene and you hear it going. Like, we got, where's my outputs? We've got, I'll have to, those are real sharp. Those have to go down. But we got a nice like warmth. Maybe I'll repeat this there. I don't know. I was trying something different. But when you unmute the fronts and you've got it all, I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. It's a matter of playing with it. You are not given instructions on how to make it sound good. It's up to you. This is building a ship in the bottle, only it costs more, and at the end you get to watch 1,000 movies and amazing anime. Redo of Healer. Just don't look into it. Just watch it. Don't have parents or guardians or be of legal age to watch that. So yeah, that's it. For now, I think that's where I'm going. And then config 4, I'm not even gonna fuck with it. Not even gonna fuck with it yet. So now that I've edited config 1 to be pretty solid, I have a default. Config 2, I have to save. I'm gonna save, file, save, save current config. Config 3 is all I'm going to call it. I could do all sorts of weird renaming and say, oh, this is when I did this, or it's treble high, and you can have a million of these configs and just load them. So you could just fuck around and go, this is interesting. Save it, wipe it back to start, and try again, and then save it. I'll have to go to config 2 and do the same thing and save it. Considering this is now my working config for 5.1. You hear me talking to myself and you come down? She's just coming down to see what's going on because I'm talking to myself. Yeah, sorry to make this like a mad science hour, but I'm sure some of you people are just hanging on with bated breath. What is he going to do next? How much more redo of Healer can he show before he shits his pants? Because this is a dangerous show to put on to test, and it's danger. So yeah, okay, we're at that. We're at this. We're good. But back later again. Okay, welcome back. So it's been about 3 weeks since I filmed the calibration and setup, and I was going through, and I finally today rewatched those first parts because I had made another ending to this video, and it was 46 minutes, and it literally repeated everything that I'd already done because I forgot what I did it. So now we're going to talk specifically about using your own DACs as a home theater and DRAC live correction. Mostly DRAC live correction because it's made a way bigger difference than I thought it was going to in my home theater listening experience. In fact, just now is when I finished watching the earlier parts of this video uploaded to YouTube and hear my own voice. And I'm like, all right, you know what? What does it sound like with DRAC live off? And it sounds flat and muddled, and these are Klipsch heresies. These are amazing speakers, and you're going to get them if you own amazing speakers. You plop them down in your room, and you know that they're amazing. And I thought these were amazing, but having the microphone DRAC correction on them and turning it on just with the sound of my own voice through the GoPro mic, like you're hearing me right now, night and day difference. Night and day difference. So basically, I'm going to finish up this DDRC-88D. I told you I'd figure out what it was called by memory by the time I was done with this. I'm going to finish up this video. By the way, there's your wallpaper. Talking about DRAC correction. Now, front-end speakers we'll get to, or I've already established that I've even touched on earlier in the video how these subwoofers, they were trying to get pushed to do more than they're physically capable of, or more than they're physically comfortable with. And you have to sort of like understand that. Like DRAC is going to try to fix things that maybe it really shouldn't. As far as the subwoofer goes, I've actually noticed that I may have to redo something on the sub. Leveling this subwoofer out, and I've noticed less impressive bass with things like Edge of Tomorrow, the Edge of Tomorrow demo. Like it's still moving, it's going crazy, but since it's trying to room correct it, I'm actually getting a more flat response, but not as impressive a response. And this is going to be entirely personal preference, because that is not a weak sub. I mean, it actually is only like 400 watts because it's the lower power version of that rhythmic. But usually it scares the crap out of people. And using DRAC Live on that sub is sort of like, not cut its balls off, but the spike that was at like 18 hertz has been softened. So is that good or bad? Like, it's more accurate, but one of the things a 0.1 sub do is should scare the crap out of you, and that one has now stopped doing that. So I'm going to have to go in and tweak, either in the software, literally just add the spike back, or go back into the DRAC software, which you saw me playing with earlier, and recorrect that specific channel and just uncorrect that specific channel. It's unfortunate that you can't, in the software, turn off the DRAC correction for an entire group, because here's DRAC is everything, and I could turn it on and off, and here's the remote just to turn it off. Boom, there, DRAC's off, and I could hear every channel and then turn it on. So I may go in and do some stuff with the subwoofer. As far as the configurations go, I explained that earlier in the video. Config 1, perfect 7.1. I did unlock the front end so that everything is level now. I corrected physically. I found out there's a very weird, strange bug hold on, I'm going to call it a bug. But I've been using the topping PA3 here for the side channels. And I tried to swap it out with the SUBWOOFER because I really love that amplifier, and it uses a digital knob, not an analog knob, so I could just set it and know where it is and be done. And for some reason, and this is not going to affect people's ability to buy this unit, but the output, and this was happening on the output of the UDI-08. So there's something about a surround sound decode popping through, no matter which DAC I put on. I had 3 different DACs on it. It caused distortion, literally distortion out of the digital amplifiers. And it's not, I tried 3 different amplifiers. As long as it's not a SMSL or Sauvage amplifier, it's fine. And I've tried 3 different DACs, and it would pass through that weird, it would like freak out the amplifiers. So I don't know what that was. I'm just telling you, if you decide to buy this in the odd chance that you want to stack SMSL devices, maybe avoid that. Emotiva A100 worked fine. The topping PA3 works fine. What other amplifier did I try to use? There was at least, oh, I had hooked it up actually to, as a test rig, by the way. And I just want to give this a little bit of a shout out because it saved my ass on numerous occasions. This is the XD05 Basic. And this is probably the greatest piece of test equipment I own because it's a headphone amp. We all know this. So you could test things with headphones, but you could test analog inputs, fiber optic inputs, coaxial digital inputs. You also get an analog output through not just a headphone output, but a line out. So I was able to use this on the rear channels when I was trying to diagnose that problem and just like plug it in, coaxial digital in, and go, headphones distorting? Nope. Okay, so that means it's not the signal. And then I used the line out of this into the amplifier and it distorted again. So that just blew my fucking mind. Like how does the headphone work fine because it's using its amplifiers, but as soon as it touched an SMSL or Sauvage amp, it freaked out. So just, I don't even know how to like put that into words. But here's the amplifier I'm talking about. I really, really, really wanted to use this thing. And it works perfect. The Sauvage works perfect. All the SMSL amps work perfect on every other source except the UDI-08 doing surround sound. I don't get it. Anyway, back to corrections, room corrections, and living with this now for over probably been a month since I got it. This setup was long and tiresome, but as you heard earlier, I was very excited. I'm a little bit more calm right now. I just finished watching an hour and 40 minutes of myself, and I'm like, okay, Zios, calm the fuck down. I'm going to link, by the way, because I already made a list of the links, every piece of equipment that is currently in use right now. Every DAC, every amp, obviously the miniDSP stuff. Thanks again to them for sending the DDRC-88D, because it does. I guess the summation of it, is it worth spending $1,000 to add to, and you have to buy either, you have to buy the UDI-08. There is a RME version, but it's fiber optic, so you'd have to use converters to get it to use this anyway. So 6 to 1, half a dozen of another. You're probably gonna end up buying just the UDI-08 and the DDRC-88D with bass management. Is it worth it? Yes. In my specific scenario where I am a lunatic and I can spend all day doing this, yes. Just having the button on the remote that just goes, turn off Dirac Live correction. Oh, it still sounds good. Oh, now it's perfect. I'm also announcing that this whole setup is going to have to be redone because I've been contacted by Valencia Seating again. If you remember the red chairs, the ones that Pasta loves. Remember the Lovey? She loves them. Oh my God. Well, yeah, they're sending me a set of 4 brown Tuscany XLs. So I don't think I'm going to leave the theater in this position. It was always temporary. It's always been on wheels. It's always been meant to move. I'm going to rotate this rack here, and I'm going to set up the theater on this wall. So I'll have the theater screen and the 2 speakers. I might try to push them a little bit further apart, although not really necessary, considering I'm not using a center channel. However, since I'm going to have 4 seats for guests, which I'm going to have to obviously push it further back from the screen, maybe around this location, I may have to integrate a center channel into my setup. I do have a transparent screen, So it's not going to be that difficult. It's just going to be a matter of running an XLR cable around to a single powered monitor. Boom, right behind the screen. For when I have 4 people lined up. So that's going to change things, and I'm going to have to DRAC correct that. And then I'm going to have to also make sure when I shut off DRAC correction, it can integrate that into it. So I look forward to the complications. It's very strange. Most people want things to be very simple and straightforward. And a lot of times in my reviews, I'll talk about, oh, this is too complicated. But then I get like the Tone 2, the Codis Tone 2, which is going to be my benchmark now for fucking weird, strange, complicated devices. And it brings me joy to see that sort of level of competence in confusion. That's a good way to put it. And a lot of miniDSP stuff is competence in confusion. It's very, very capable, very, very powerful software to match very, very affordable hardware. A miniDSP HD is like under $205, and the things it can do, especially if you spend another $200 and get the DRAC correction, which I'm considering asking for that, so I could use it to DSP correct random, just every speaker, because it makes such a huge difference. Huge difference. Like, it just butterifies everything I'm hearing out of my speakers. There's an actual depth that's added. Now, basically, I don't notice the corrections on the rear channels. I'm sure they required some. They're sort of sitting, floating midair. I got some clips here. I got some JBLs. One of the things I made a mistake, and I will correct it when I move it and redo all the whole measurements, is that I assigned these 4 rear speakers as a single group in the DRAC Live software. So it corrected the fronts on their own. It corrected the sub on its own. And then it corrected all 4 of these speakers, which are 4 very different speakers, or at least 2 pairs, as a single correction thing. And I don't want that. I'm going to have these be their own, or I might change out which speakers I'm using in general. I had always wanted to put back the principle I had back in my old apartment, which was shove the side and back speakers against walls and shoot up and use a wall to sort of wash, instead of having a directional speaker where noise is from there and then noise is definitely from here. You get sort of a wash. You can do that with out of bipole dipole speakers can handle that a little bit better than like a directional speaker like this, but I have such great distance to where you're sitting from this. This is like 7.5 feet, and that's another like 7.5 feet wide. So I'll mute my phone for a second. Using directional sort of works here in the basement, but once I turn the whole unit and I have theater seating, I do not want to have a person's head right here and then a speaker pointing at them. That's bad design in home theater. I love to do an entire video on just home theater design. It's just slightly difficult because every home theater, like design principles, I could probably write down like 20, 30 things that I think people should understand. No speaker in any situation should ever be within 4 feet of a listener, no matter where they are in your fucking house. I know my friend had his home theater set up and he had the little Omni stats right next to the couch. Like, he would sit in the middle. When he was home alone, sat in the middle, he was fine. He was 3.5, 4 feet from each side. It was great. When he had guests over, the guests would sit on the ends of the couch and the speaker was right here. And I nearly shit my pants because we put on Dunkirk. In the very beginning of Dunkirk, it's very quiet. They're walking through the streets and then gunfire completely out of the rear channel. Oh my God. Like, boom. So my advice is always, if you can put a speaker as far away from the human listener as possible, do it. If you put it here, that's great. You got to put it here, keep going. You want to put it here, you want to put it all the way back here, get a big enough speaker that you can blast it as a rear channel, as long as it keeps an even flow. Because if you're right against the person's fucking ear or face, it's going to hurt and it's not going to be level. The further away you can get speakers from the user, the more it just becomes a sound field and not a sound source. So like I was saying, DRAC Live corrections on the back channels. I screwed up by doing it in one giant clump. I want to break it up into back and sides and then correct it that way. And I might, since I'm rotating this, it's going to be strange. I may do a ceiling mount for some speakers because I feel like it's going to be a more permanent location here. This was sort of like just set it up. because I mean, I don't have any, I have a lovely problem in this basement, for those of you who don't watch my live stream, where the owners built this beautiful house and they spent $15,000 on electricians and they filled up the entire circuit breaker panel. Just want to point this out. There's one empty spot in this entire circuit breaker panel, and then there's another panel for the generator. There are 1, 2, 3 outlets in this entire basement. 3. I don't know. That's their choice. But I'm going to have to add another circuit breaker panel here and then come off and then do, because I mean, that's stupid. It's literally, I'm running a 100-foot extension cord that I have to unplug a thing to run my saw over there. So the basement's not exactly perfect. The rest of the house is pretty good. But the basement's like, yeah, no one's going to use that. Old people built the house. They didn't know fucking what this was going to happen. So I'm going to have to consider that when I'm doing things and moving things, and probably putting passive speakers up here in the back instead of powered for that reason, so that I could just run speaker cable up there, because you could buy 100 feet of speaker cable and deal with it somewhere else. I'm very pleased with this. I'm sure this, if you are watching Z reviews proper, there's very, very few times I get to talk about home theater. I get a new subwoofer. I know Rhythmic wants to send me the G25, which is the dual 15 sealed. And I want it in white. So I'm like, look, I don't want another black subwoofer. I want wife acceptance factor, $2,500 murder box. Can you send me in white? It's like, you're going to have to wait. I'm like, I'll wait. So that's coming at some point. I got that little tiny SVS. So when I do a subwoofer, I can sort of say, okay, I'll shove it into my home theater. This way I could show my home theater. So this is a very rare occasion. A lot of times it's headphones and speakers, but even then speakers don't necessarily end up in the home theater. Back in my old apartment, I basically only had my living room to test speakers. Now I have an entire dedicated section of the basement for testing speakers. So I don't actually sit down here and watch movies. So it's a little bit harder for me to get into home theater. This is more like the dedicated stereo tube amp, sort of like ooh area. This is where the ooh happens. By the way, I'm very proud of my shelf for keeping my computer so I can set VR up over here. VR with a round rug so I know where I'm standing. It's gonna be great. This is not for the faint of heart. The whole DDRC-88D and UDI-08 and being forced to use a computer. And I'll explain something else. Someone on my Patreon chat, if you're in the $10 Patreon tier, someone there does software development and hardware integration with random items throughout the world. And he saw my review of the UDI-08, which I did on the table there, where I explained what I wanted, a software a surround sound decoder. Not a processor, just something that gives you the digital channels. And he said, you know what? I have this company. We do this. We're looking for projects to do. I'm going to research the ability to make the thing you want, because it seems like there would be interest in it. And he contacted Dolby. I don't know if he contacted DTS, but he contacted Dolby specifically first. And it turns out the license fee, if you wanted to make a piece of equipment that has Dolby in it, only costs about $11,000 to get a license for a single product. It's not bad. However, when you start reading the fine print, which you had to obviously do if you want to continue forward, it specifically states you are not allowed to give the digital signal out. You have to, it can only be analog. It can never be digital. You can never decode it and break it apart into its elements and hand it to another piece of equipment. That is not allowed. You do that, you're fucking fine. You're out of business. So that is why when I complained about the UDI-08, I had this gut feeling that that was the case, because it makes perfect sense that, oh, Dolby doesn't want you ripping Dolby tracks into surround sounds, and you could make, it's not like we can rip Blu-rays because that code was cracked 10 years ago. Quick, clamp down on all these weird fucking codecs that no one gives a no one's going to go through the fucking effort to try to extract digital audio from HDMI and then put it into, to record it and then bootleg what? What are we bootlegging? But lawyers and shit are stupid. Everything's stupid. So the only way on the earth to extract digital signals for individual channels to use your own DACs, and I love my Gashelli Labs for doing this, is through a computer doing a software decode. You know, if I have Media Player Classic Home Cinema is the software I use. And if we open up Captain Ron or Children of Men, is Children of Men 7.1 or 5.1? Moment, please. Nas is waking up. Wake up, Nas. There we go. Oh, there's a new... I have to download a new update for this. But if I go here... Let me make sure there's actual sound playing. There is. It's very quiet. But if I go to Filters and I go to Lav Audio Decoder, because that's what we're using the built-in Lav Audio Decoder, we can see... If I can skip forward. Can I skip forward? No. Of course I can't. That makes perfect sense. Shh. You have left, right, center, LFE, surround left, and surround right. It is actually breaking the digital signal apart on the computer, which allows it to be fed into an 8-channel sound card, essentially is what the UDI-08 is, and then you can fuck with it all you want. I was pretty happy with the thought of not including the DDRC-88D and just using the UDI-08. Just having raw, okay, that's left, that's right, that's side, that's back. No channel adjustments, no volumes except for like a very rudimentary thing I showed you all. It's 1911. 1911, a lav filter version. Oh, new lav filters. I'm excited. Demolition Man's another good one. I'm trying not to make this... I know the video is already an hour and like 15 minutes long. And I'm probably live streaming this, doing like one of the... I realize it's so long, I'm just going to make it a premiere. So hi, everybody. Say hi to Zeos in chat. Are you watching in chat, Zeos? Good, I'm glad. The moral of the story is, if you're fucking crazy, this is absolutely worth it. If you're just somebody who's like, I want the best home theater I can get, but you don't mean it, you just want the best home theater you can get and set up in like 2 days, don't fucking come here. miniDSP, what they do, and the amount of customization you have to do, which you saw previously in this video, is not for you. You will not be able to it'll just be a fucking confusing mess. Thank God I live where I live and do what I do, because deciphering the problem I had with the amplifier having distortion in the channels, I thought it was a bad wire. I thought maybe the UDI-08 was broken. There was so many things that I thought could have been the problem, and I had to come to my massive wall of equipment and just start swapping things. Well, of course, I have an extra DAC that does coax with digital. I have 3 of them. And amplifiers, I got piles of amplifiers. Just keep trying piles of amplifiers until we can sort out what it was. If I only had one piece of equipment, that would have never been possible. Ever. So, just a warning to the weak. If you're weak and you don't think you can handle this, don't. Just go buy a surround sound receiver or a processor. Get one from Emotiva. Get something that's just like analog outputs. You can handle that. The whole box. My MC700 did exactly what it's supposed to do. I'm going to reuse my MC700 on my sim racing cockpit over there, which will roll around and be a VR thing. But it's going to be nice. I'm going to have a little baby surround sound. Little baby, tiny little surround sound. This personal one. If I want to go drive around cars, go wee, wee, wee. Put speakers on here, and then I have a little knob, and it's going to be left and right. And it's going to be 2 side channels, and maybe probably a single rear behind the seat. And it's just going to be enough to give me an environment, and that's fine. It's fine. This is serious shit. And I'm sorry to take the tone of this video to like... The month has been long. The month has been long. And working out the problem I had with the amp, with a friend who's a patron of mine who's like came to drop off some speakers, and he's an audio engineer. I'm like, we had to assess the problems with that, and it's just I'm spent. I love this setup, and I hope you guys can see it for yourself at some point. I hope at least one of the people you know decides to do this, because the act of changing out to your own DACs was step 1 in making my home theater better than everyone else's. I don't want to use the built-in decoders and all these Cirrus Logic 8-channel chips that are like $40 to do all 8 channels. That's what it costs to buy the Cirrus Logic as a consumer. So imagine how much Marantz or Denon is paying to have like this chip. Here it goes. It's just doing all the DAC. And I know I've said DACs are all the same. And after a certain price point, they kind of all are. They should be. They have measurement rigs. You plug it in and say, is it doing the right thing? Okay, good. Unplug it, sell this thing. But when you shove that much shit into such a cheap section of a big, massive amplifier that's paying licensing fees and has power supplies and has amplifiers built into, you're going to lose out. Having it switch to DACs individually was a huge step. Huge step. I could hear when my fucking subwoofer, that only does like 50 hertz and below, was on a better DAC than the internal DAC of a surround sound processor. So now multiply that by the fact that I now have direct live correction on everything. And now you're Focal Radiance are playing over there, probably some screaming, wailing woman. I don't want to push the people too hard for this. I'm not like, oh my God, everyone needs to buy this. I'm being very cautious about this because I will end up with the FLAC, not the file format, the one that shreds your internal organs from exploding. Because if you get this and you don't understand it, I am not there to help you. There is a miniDSP forums that has been pretty helpful in the few times I've used it, but I don't have the infinite time it would take to explain every little nuance of what this unit can do and what you can do with it. So you have to know that beforehand. You have to know straight up the bat that it's like, all right, I want to get this unit. Okay, do you have a way to output? Are you okay with it? Never, ever, ever. And you install a Blu-ray drive in your computer, which actually I should just buy. Do they sell? Zeos, future Zeos, who's watching this video, could you see if they sell an external, like the set-top Blu-ray disc drive that you can plug in via USB to your mini computer? Because the mini computer is buried in here somewhere down there. So it doesn't have a Blu-ray drive, but I never would actually watch physical media. I haven't watched physical media in forever, but it feels like I should have one of those. Because you then have to have the Blu-ray player go through a software that allows you to break apart the digital decode software-wise to push it out to this. It's a fucking nightmare. I'm prepared for this nightmare. I want to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier and have it sound just murderously spectacular. Which, by the way, if you're not watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, y'all should. Here, wait. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm just going to open one up real quick. The beginning, like, fight scenes where it's very specifically Falcon, it's like, I get it. They didn't need those like, action scenes. I don't have that wallpaper to share.
We'll bring Selby for a chat.
Pause. Fuck you, Disney. How do you make Falcon and the Winter Soldier so good and Star Wars sucks dick? Did I say that earlier? I may have said that earlier in the video too. Yeah, no, I'm very satisfied with this. This is like the one aspect of my life to being Zeos, the fucking audio reviewer, where I'm pretty sure I'm not changing that speaker out tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that whole front end, that's it. That's it for years. So I can actually concern myself with it and improve it and digitally correct it with DSPs and room corrections. I can concentrate on it. Everything else, every other aspect of my life, my whole desk upstairs where my office is like a constant flow of like, Death and Ray Honey. Oh, nope. Now it's a topping A30 Pro. Oh, nope. Now it's the Matrix fucking Element X. It's just constantly changing out. I'm never stuck. I'm trying to get these units set up to be like a consistent, wow, I have every plug used on the front of this. Wild. I'm just trying to get these sort of set up to be like my test rigs. Like I have units here that I fucking love. A90s here, KNs here. The Rebel amp might come out. I might put, you can see it on the floor, the Sings are in here because that is like the reference Class A fun amp. Here the reference, the Radiance, by the way. So far, so good, by the way, on these here Bentley fucking things. Anyway, I have to end because I'm just going to keep ranting. And I know Zeos watching this as a stream, and I hope I've at least given a semblance of like, there is movie magic to be had, because all of this is irrelevant. It comes full circle, whether you're doing this for home theater or you're doing this for music. In the end, none of this matters because you should just be enjoying the content you're watching. In the end, You know, just because I have like DSP corrected, room fucking corrected, balanced, leveled, sub added, DSP done speakers means fucking nothing if I'm not enjoying what I'm watching. And hopefully I get this set up to the point where I can literally forget about it. And the same thing applies to people with headphones and speakers in their desks. Audiophilia should only be about the audio. The audio gets me excited, obviously. The audio hardware gets me excited, obviously. But at the end of the day, it should really be the content that I'm here to create. I just want to clean the window more and more and more. That's what we're doing. We're all in this dirty glass house. And the cleaner you make the windows, the more you get to look at the world outside. So I'm just cleaning the fucking glass that is the window into Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Redo of Healer and whatever the hell else I decide to put on Red Letter Media. Ooh, delivery. So yeah, you'll never be able to break the window. The window will always be there, and it's okay to clean it to a point, but at some point you have to stop cleaning and just enjoy the fucking view. So that's the end of my review. Hope I didn't get too philosophical and rambling on you. I mean, I kind of did, but it's less repeaty than I had the previous end to this video, which if I re-upload this, I'll link the one where I was absolutely insane in the description, Zeos. The one where I did like another 46 minutes doing the exact same shit. Because I didn't even know if I talked about the remote or anything. I kept bringing that up. A couple good tiblets maybe in there if you really want an extra 45 minutes of content on top of this extra 35 minutes of content. Wallpaper, girl with giant gun. It's the only wallpaper I had in the 16:9 format that when cropped to 235:1 still looked awesome. And that's basically, actually, as far as analogies go, this is me. This anime girl represents me. And somewhere over there is the target, which is like a squirrel that is home theater. Oh, I want to watch a movie in surround sound. And for some fucking reason, that's the weapon I pulled out to shoot the little baby chipmunk. It's a chipmunk. I pulled out a fucking anti-material rifle to shoot the chipmunk. That's what my home theater is now. It's an anti-material rifle to kill a chipmunk. I could have gone to Best Buy and spent $200 on a receiver and it would have come with some little Bose cubes and I've been fine. But no. All right, wallpaper available. Check out my Patreon and Subscribestar. Those people will get the torture of watching this shit early. In fact, if you're a patron and you've made it this far into the video, feel free to leave a comment below telling everyone why you're better than everyone else, because those guys who show up in public videos and go first, that can be you. You have the ability to be first on every one of the videos, but then you have to compete against other patrons and people on Subscribestar to be first. And I actually published on Subscribestar like a minute or two earlier because I set it up in Subscribestar, then copy it, publish it, go to Patreon, and then post it. So if you really want to get any Subscribestar, is where you have to go. Get to see these videos early. A lot of times there are stock limits. Like I don't think anyone's going to run out and spend $1,000 on a miniDSP, DDRC, but you know, that does happen a lot. You'd be amazed how many clear KPH30Is didn't exist after I put that review out. And the Swans, and probably, I wonder if those Callies will go out of stock. I doubt it. Not enough people watch the video. Callies, by the way. But that's another thing, is now I have the ability now to just set up a set of Swan-powered monitors with a fiber optic or a coaxial digital input straight out of the DDRC-88D+BM. Just don't even need DACs. Just plug it in from that unit to the internal DAC and the speakers. Done. I might do that just for fucking kicks. See reviews early for $5 a month. Participate in the yard sales. Nothing here is going on sale because I'm just shut up. Don't buy my stuff right this minute. There are other items. I've got a ton of IEMs and headphones, like middle of the range stuff that I'm probably not going to keep. Those things end up in the yard sale from the 1st to the 10th of every month. I pay for the shipping anytime any place in the continental United States. It's 1/3 shipping international, so you'd have to pay for shipping slightly just to offset the cost. If you want to ask me questions, I used to answer questions on platform, on Patreon, on Subscribestar with PMs. However, that got overwhelming because I have like 1,000 patrons now. And it's like, I can't answer 10, 15, 20 questions a day when every question requires 20 minutes. It's just, I don't have the time of day. So if you want to ask me a question directly, please feel free to join the $10 tier on Subscribestar or Patreon, and you'll get onto my phone into the private behind-the-scenes Telegram chat with 200 other people. And you just go at Zeos Pantera, here's what I got. What do you think? And you know what? I'll answer your question. But so will anybody who's reading and going, you know what? I had that same problem, or I had that same thing, and here's what I did. It's wonderful to get a group's opinion, and they're all great people in there. Never once has it felt like anyone in there was tiresome. I'm never tiresome of any of those people. So, yeah. They've never told me to stop being tiresome. And we'll just share information, and like we have a good time in there. Post some GIFs, maybe make some rag on some people. It's okay. If you show up and you don't have any audio knowledge, that's fine. We get it. Audiophiles get it. I didn't know jack shit 10 years ago. And now I know literally a person named Jack Shit. I think he works at Shit Audio. So there you go. Just show up and be like, here's what I got, and here's what I know, and here's what I don't know. And people will help you, and I will help you. So $10 chat's where it's at. Don't forget to check out Hi-Fi Guides in the Hi-Fi Guides forum. There is a home theater section, and I'm going to make sure, future Zeos, make sure that there is a post specifically for the DDRC-8C, because DDRC-88D+BM, which again, BM is bad. Don't ever say BM. Yeah, so you guys can have home theater discussions on the forums. You can have home theater discussions on Reddit, on our home theater, which is a subreddit I still mod, but I never check. I apologize greatly. I just had to abandon Reddit. It was too much of my time. It's like I don't like have the Imgur app on my phone. No, too much time. Time sinks are down. Work is up. Anyway, that's it. Again, thank you to miniDSP for finally getting back in touch with me and sending this out. I'm going to see if I can get a couple other interesting units. I know they have specifically stereo DACs that have DRAC correction, like nice desktop units that do streaming. Those would be interesting to cover, because that would cover the other half of my career. Like, this is my hobby now. Like, it's interesting that, your hobby should be your job. And yeah, headphones and speakers were sort of like my hobby, and now it's my job. But home theater is not really my job. So I can still keep it as a hobby. And I get to occasionally let you in and put an hour and 40-minute video out explaining how exciting it is. And it's mostly the hardware at this moment. By the way, Epson Powerlight 5030 UB. That was a $700 projector. I reviewed that. $700 refurbished projector. Beautiful. 1080p, all I need down here. It's going to be great. Great. So yeah, links to all the shit I've used. And I hope you guys have stuck through the end of this video, because I'm not going to do this more than maybe, if I do a video on home theater in general twice a year, it's a lot. I don't have, I have the space. I could literally set up a home theater every cube. I could have 6 home theaters set up there, but to what end? I'll probably end up doing a generalized home theater video on top of the generalized home theater videos that I've done in the past, where it's like, how do you make a home theater? And this is not the way you do that. Very blatantly say that this is if you have no idea if you have no idea what DSP stands for, do not try to do what I'm doing. It stands for digital signal processing, by the way. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you made it to the end of this video, and maybe you got drunk and you go hug your loved ones, because you've just been through a lot, and I've been through a lot. And it's a beautiful day out. I'm going to leave this house and walk out into the grass and just lay down now, because I need it. And I'll see you tomorrow.